Yo, what's up? What's poppin'? It's poppin' in the hizzy. Party people, party person, party fella, party gal. I'm Anthony Polanco, Ant P style on everything except for YouTube, ironically. A friend of mine, really cute gal, messaged me on WhatsApp the other day. She asked me about like my conservative upbringing. She watches my YouTube videos. She's like, hey, I noticed you talked briefly about your conservative Christian upbringing and the way your family raised you, conservative, and I never talk about it. And she made me realize, like, hey, that's a significant thing in your life. You should talk about that, because there's probably other people there's a ton of people who grew up conservative, the typical, or I guess cliche, conservative Republican household, or conservative Christian upbringing, and that's something that a lot of people end up resenting when they become an adult, because they didn't choose it. It was just kind of forced on them. It was given to them at birth. And so when you become an adult, you have to start making decisions. You have to rationalize your beliefs. And when you didn't choose it, you never had to do that in the first place. So it can be very difficult, and some people never develop the courage that is required to question your belief systems. And I was able to do that and emerge without resentment for the Christian church, for my community, for my parents, my family. In fact, I'm very grateful, and I have a really positive, I have a positive experience. And it's actually because of them that I was able to travel the world as a Christian missionary my childhood and most of my life thus far. So, it's a unique experience that I had, and my definition of Christianity is different now. But the point is, you might be someone who struggles with their conservative upbringing. You might be at a place where you're ready to question your beliefs, question what you were raised with, whether that's Christianity or anything, any kind of belief system, politically, socioculturally, whatever. And so I thought I'd share my story with you, because maybe it'll help. So when I was a kid, I grew up really Christian. My parents raised me, I was going to church every Sunday, every Wednesday in the kids program and stuff. And like I said, I traveled as a missionary at age 11 and on into many different countries all over the world. I grew up, even at a really young age, I can remember being super repentant all the time, like praying constantly. Every time I'd lie to my parents, every time I'd lie to a friend or to a teacher, the Christian guilt, I would pray all the time, asking for forgiveness for my sinning, atoning for my sins all the time. And I guess in a way it's good to have that, because I had an ethics that I guess I held myself to at a very young age. But the point is, I was really into what I believed to be true about spirituality and about my spirit and about God, my understanding of God. And so that I carried that. I wasn't a great kid. I wasn't a good kid. I was kind of a rebellious dude. I grew up in a poor community, and in poor communities, there's a lot of, mischief, that goes on. And I got into a lot of mischief and a lot of trouble, but I was always atoning, and so I had a really intimate relationship with God. I was the youngest of four. My siblings had pretty much left the house by the time I was a functioning human, and so my relationship with God was like everything. He was my best friend, and I was close with my parents, but my parents were working and they were older, and I was alone, a lot. And so my relationship with God was huge for me. And so as I grew up and exited high school and started to see the world for myself for the first time, be an adult, having to adopt responsibility and question my role in society, I had a hard time. I tried to avoid it, but I couldn't. My subconscious was telling me, question this. What is this? You're wrong about something here, about God's nature. And I think everyone can identify with that. Like, whether you believe in God or not, whether you're a religious person or not, whether your religion is Christianity or not, I think, our subconscious raises the questions that we're not ready to answer. We're not ready to ask, I should say. I'm sorry. So, it pushed me into a depression, you know? I spent 4 years depressed, and I think a big part of that was my relationship with my best friend and my ticket out of this finite reality was in question, and I was too afraid to ask the questions. And I finally had to ask when my life kind of just fell into shambles because, well, I lost everything, and I knew that the reason why was because I was too afraid to ask whether or not God was real, or whether or not my idea of God was real. And I finally did. And long story short, well, I guess long story shorter than it already is, I went through therapy and I started doing yoga and meditation, Kundalini yoga, and started taking psychedelics alone at home in my room contemplatively. And well, I was able to redefine my belief, my understanding. And the whole point that I'm trying to make is, it's like there's this quote by Descartes, an old philosopher. I can't remember the quote, it's really long, but basically it's like you have a basket of apples, and if there's a rotten apple in the basket, do you pick out the apple and then sift through the big basket of apples looking for other rotten apples to throw out? Or do you dump the basket out and then put the good ones one by one back into your basket? Suppose a person had a basket full of apples, and being worried that some of the apples were rotten, wanted to take out the rotten ones to prevent the rot spreading. How would he proceed? Would he not begin by tipping the whole lot out of the basket? And would not the next step be to cast his eye over each apple in turn, and pick up and put back in the basket only those he saw to be sound, leaving the others? In just the same way, those who have never philosophized correctly have various opinions in their minds, which they have begun to store up since childhood, and which they therefore have reason to believe may in many cases be false. They then attempt to separate the false beliefs from the others, so as to prevent their contaminating the rest and making the whole lot uncertain. Now, the best way they can accomplish this is to reject all of their beliefs together in one go, as if they were all uncertain and false. They can then go over each belief in turn and readopt only those which they recognize to be true and indubitable. If you don't have the courage to do dumping out the basket, you'll end up walking with a basket of apples that are all rotting until you're 40 or 50 years old, and you realize that you never questioned any of the belief systems that were given to you as a child, and you therefore resent everything about you because you are just a basket of rotten apples, you know? And so I did that, and I think the tools that I used, meditation, reading a lot of books, going through therapy, taking psychedelics, those things helped me. Those were just tools. I'm not saying you have to do that if you're in a place where you're ready to question your reality, question your beliefs that you were given as a child. But you do need tools. And so those were the tools I used. And I have friends who went through the same thing, went to private Christian schools, you know, grew up in the Christian church, and they ended up resenting the Christian church really hard because, well, they felt like it was just force-fed to them for 18 years or however long, and then they had to just kind of give up on all of it. And the alternative for them was to just give up on all religion, to just give up on believing anything. And then they developed this nihilistic, pessimistic, really negative, I guess, thought patterns. And, well, I guess that's okay. I mean, they're free to think however they want, but what I want for you, I'm not going to tell you this is how you have to do it, but what I want you to think about, if you are questioning your upbringing and questioning what you should believe, is anytime that you can evolve, that you can reevaluate yourself, anytime you can redefine yourself, you have an opportunity to become a better person. Use it. This is an opportunity. Your subconscious is raising the question, who am I? Why do I believe what I believe? Is what I believe accurate? Is it truth? Your subconscious is asking you to ask that question. So when you dump out your basket of apples, the apples that you put back in your basket, make sure that they're ones that you're happy with, defining who you are. Think about your top 10 heroes in life. What characteristics and traits do they have? What paths did they take? And then just pick out which ones you want and put them in your basket, because you have, it's like you're at a buffet. You have an empty plate and you're at this buffet, and the buffet is unending, and there's a bunch of junk food in the buffet, but there's also really good things. There's delicious steaks, healthy salads, the most delicious beverages that you could ever imagine. Just get those things, and make it simple. For me, those things were reading books, therapy, Kundalini yoga, jujitsu in a way, Jujitsu came later, but still, I consider it a part of my basket. And in self-analysis and helping, define who I am as a person. Psychedelics. I don't do them as much now because I've kind of used them to help navigate me through my thoughts, and once in a long while I'll pick them up again and have another exploration, but they're not to be taken lightly, They're serious medicines, they're tools. They're your sword and shield, They're my sword and shield in the battle of self-analysis. So I'm watching two lizards screw right outside my window. It's bizarre. Anyway, that's it. Nothing's too heavy or serious. I just wanted to provide some value, some insight to you. Like, if you found this video because you are considering your upbringing, you're wanting to question your beliefs about God, well, change is not bad. It's not a bad thing to change what you think or what you believe. When you are born, your brain is so, it's called neuroplasticity. It has nothing in there. It's an empty sponge, and everything that your family or whoever raised you puts in there is what you have to believe as entirely full truth. But like, if you're a kid and you go to school and your mom told you it's bad to eat lemons by themselves because it'll rot your teeth, and another kid's mom told him it's good to eat lemons because lemons have a lot of vitamins and they are a fruit and fruit is good for you, and your friend is eating a lemon, or the kid is eating a lemon at recess, and you say, hey, you shouldn't be eating that lemon, it's bad for you, it's going to rot your teeth. And he says, no, my mom says eating lemons are good for you. You said, well, my mom says eating lemons are bad for you. Eating lemons by themselves are bad for you. Neither of you were told wrong. Your moms are both right, but to you, he's wrong, and to him, you're wrong. So the point being is, everyone's truth when they're a kid is utmost truth. And then as you get older, you start to see the entire system. You take a macro view of the one unit of information that you were looking at as a child that you believe to be the entire thing. And as you become an adult, all of the systems that you once, did not see, you're now seeing. You're having to question what your beliefs are in religion, in politics, in socioeconomics, in health, whatever. And so you have to question those things as an adult, and some people just don't have the courage to do so ever, and they become 40 or 50 years old and they just resent the entire world because they don't understand why people don't see things their way. Well, because other people don't have the same one little they weren't given the same single little truths that you were. So you have to question things if you are brave enough, and it'll help you define your truth, and it'll help you find your truth. And so go forth. I eventually just realized, that I didn't have enough tools in my toolkit to become the person I wanted to be. So I had to go get those things. I used those tools to help find myself. And I'm still working on it. It's a lifelong experience, but at least I feel like I've gotten out of the groove of just believing what I was brought up to believe. And I'm not saying it's bad. Like I said, I don't have any animosity toward my upbringing. I'm very grateful. My parents did everything they could to raise me to be a good person, and I think they did everything that was required to make me the person that I am, the person that I needed to be, to question what I believe, to become someone who could believe in myself enough to ask God Who are you for real? And if God is an omniscient being, whatever religion you believe in, if God is truly an omniscient being that made everything, that knows everything, and that has been and does not exist in time or space, but is all of time and space, essentially, well, then God is aware of all of the things that exist. And so it should not be a sin for you to go forth and inspect and be curious and question God. Question every single thing that raises your curiosity. I'm trying to not preach to you, but in the end, what you are believing is what another human taught you, not what God taught you. If and any other human, whether it's your pastor or your teacher or your parents, they are just people. They don't know anything. They don't know anything about reality or life. They're just guessing. They're just playing the game. They might have a lot of confidence, but confidence doesn't equal knowledge or intelligence. So you got to ask for yourself. Otherwise, you're putting your faith in man, not in God. And that's why you'll have this false reality. And eventually your delusion will crack and you will realize it and you will crumble into depression just like I did. And it might not be when you're young. It might be when you're 40 or 50 or 60 or 70. And that's even harder because now you have to face your demon. You have to face your dragon and you're old. Your sword and shield is going to be so brittle. Your body is brittle. So do it now while your subconscious is bringing it up to you. While you're finally developing the courage to go and ask the question, whatever brought you here today, is courage. So I appreciate you watching. Just don't think of it as changing your beliefs. Think about it as extending them. You don't have to let go of everything forever. Just expand. Don't be afraid to expand and extend. Whatever. The point is, if you are considering your upbringing, whether it's a conservative upbringing or otherwise, I encourage you to do so. Not in the same way I did. Your journey is your journey. Everyone is on their own path. But, I believe in you. I love you. I know that you can do it. So go forth. Be the hero. Step into your truth. It's time. I love you. Talk to you soon. Peace.